Chinese destroyer fires on U.S. reconnaissance aircraft over Philippine Sea. One missile launched at 7:52 a.m. Aircraft damaged but survives. 18 crew members at risk. America's response comes within 73 minutes. 2 carrier strike groups converge. 47 aircraft launched. Chinese battle group obliterated. 3 destroyers sunk. 1 carrier crippled. 340 Chinese sailors dead. This is what happens when you fire first. This is the price of aggression. November 15, 2025, Philippine Sea, 420 miles east of Luzon. A U.S. Navy EP-3E Ares II reconnaissance aircraft conducts signals intelligence mission at 22,000 feet. This aircraft is a flying sensor platform, packed with $180 million in electronic surveillance equipment. Crew, 18 intelligence specialists and aviators. Their mission, monitor Chinese naval communications during major fleet exercise. Flight path, international airspace, 80 miles from nearest Chinese vessel. Legal, routine, unescorted. What the EP-3E crew didn't know: Chinese Naval Command had issued new engagement protocols 48 hours earlier. Rules of engagement expanded. Any foreign military aircraft within 200 miles of Chinese fleet operations would be considered hostile. No warning required. Weapons free. Beijing's admirals had decided to enforce an exclusion zone that international law doesn't recognize. They were itching for confrontation. They got one. The Chinese Surface Action Group centered on CNS Nanchang, a Type 055 destroyer, 13,000 tons of steel. Most advanced surface combatant in China's fleet. Cost $920 million. Armed with 112 vertical launch cells carrying HHQ-9 surface-to-air missiles. These weapons can engage targets 120 miles away. The Nanchang wasn't alone. 2 Type 052D destroyers provided escort. CNS Liaoning, China's first aircraft carrier, steamed 40 miles north with its air wing embarked. Total Chinese force, 14 warships, 8,000 personnel, representing years of naval modernization investment. The Nanchang's Combat Information Center tracked the EP-3E from the moment it entered radar range. Chinese operators watched the American aircraft maintain steady course at 22,000 feet. The EP-3E stayed in international airspace, 80 miles separation, legal by every treaty China had signed. But Admiral Chen Wei aboard the Nanchang had different instructions that came from Beijing, instructions that would trigger the largest naval battle since World War II. At 7:49 a.m., Admiral Chen gave the order his crew had been waiting for. Engage air contact bearing 185, fire when ready. The Nanchang's fire control systems locked the EP-3E. Target solution calculated. 1 HHQ-9 missile selected from the vertical launch battery. At 7:52 a.m., the missile erupted from its cell. 60 feet of thrust and explosive power climbing toward the unsuspecting American aircraft. Flight time to target, 87 seconds. What's your weapon of choice in this scenario? Type A if you'd rely on carrier-based fighters. Type B if destroyers and cruise missiles are your call. The EP-3E's radar warning receiver screamed, "Missile lock, incoming threat." The pilot, a 28-year veteran, had seconds to react. He threw the lumbering reconnaissance aircraft into steep dive. The EP-3E isn't a fighter, it's a modified airliner. Max speed, 405 knots. Maneuvering capability, minimal. But the pilot did everything possible. Dropped altitude. Deployed chaff and flares. Transmitted emergency distress on all frequencies. The 18 crew members braced for impact. The HHQ-9 missile closed at Mach 4.2. Active radar seeker acquired the target. Terminal guidance engaged. At 7:53 a.m., the missile detonated 40 feet from the EP-3E's starboard wing. fragmentation warhead sent 200 pounds of shrapnel through the aircraft's structure. Starboard engines shredded. Hydraulic systems failed. Electrical systems compromised. Fire erupted in the wing root. The EP-3E rolled violently right, nose dropping toward the ocean 19,000 feet below. The pilot fought for control. Both starboard engines gone. Port engines at full power. Hydraulic pressure dropping. He managed to level the aircraft at 8,000 feet. Airspeed, 180 knots and bleeding. The EP-3E was flying, but barely. Fuel streamed from punctured wing tanks. Smoke filled the cabin. 3 crew members suffered shrapnel wounds. The aircraft had maybe 20 minutes before structural failure or fuel exhaustion forced ditching in the Philippine Sea. Emergency squawk transmitted. Mayday broadcast on international distress frequency. Help needed immediately. USS Ronald Reagan received the distress call at 7:54 a.m. The carrier was conducting separate operations 280 miles southeast. Captain Michael Torres absorbed the situation in seconds. American aircraft under attack, crew in danger. Chinese forces fired first. This wasn't ambiguous. This was act of war. Torres had authority under standing rules of engagement to respond with necessary force. He ordered immediate alert launch. 6 FA-18E Super Hornets scrambled within 4 minutes. But Torres knew fighters alone wouldn't be enough. He contacted 7th Fleet Command. The message was simple. Chinese forces fired on U.S. aircraft. Request weapons-free authorization for full response. Admiral Robert Davidson, commander of 7th Fleet, received Torres's message at 7:58 a.m. Davidson had spent 35 years in the Navy preparing for this moment. Chinese aggression had been escalating for years. Close intercepts, dangerous maneuvers, threatening language, but actually firing on American forces crossed the ultimate red line. Davidson consulted with Indopacom Command for exactly 90 seconds. At 8 a.m., authorization came through. Weapons free, full response authorized. Engage and destroy Chinese Surface Action Group. Leave nothing operational. The Reagan wasn't alone. USS Abraham Lincoln Carrier Strike Group was conducting exercises 340 miles east. Lincoln's battle group included 2 Arleigh Burke destroyers and 1 Ticonderoga-class cruiser. The Lincoln could launch 48 aircraft. Combined with Reagan's air wing, the U.S. had 90 combat aircraft available. Against China's 14 ships and embarked air wing of 24 J-15 fighters. The math favored America overwhelmingly. But war isn't just math, it's execution. At 8:06 a.m., the counterstrike began. USS Lake Erie, a Ticonderoga-class cruiser with the Lincoln Group, fired first. 12 Tomahawk cruise missiles erupted from vertical launch cells. Each missile carried 1,000-pound warhead. Flight profile, sea skimming at 15 feet altitude. Speed, 550 miles per hour. Target, Chinese surface combatants. Flight time, 38 minutes. The Tomahawks would arrive before Chinese forces even understood they were under attack. The Reagan launched its Alpha strike at 8:09 a.m. 24 FA-18EF Super Hornets roared off the flight deck, each aircraft loaded with AGM-84 Harpoon anti-ship missiles and AGM-88 HARM anti-radiation missiles. The Super Hornets formed into 6 divisions of 4 aircraft. Mission: suppress Chinese air defenses, then sink every surface combatant. Escort provided by 4 FA-18F fighters configured for air superiority. Armed with AIM-120 AMRAAM and AIM-9X Sidewinder missiles. Their job: kill any Chinese fighters that attempted intercept. The Lincoln launched simultaneously. 23 Super Hornets plus 4 EA-18G Growler electronic warfare aircraft. The Growlers carried ALQ-99 jamming pods. These systems could blind Chinese radars across 200-mile radius. The combined strike package represented 51 aircraft carrying 180 anti-ship missiles. This wasn't a proportional response. This was annihilation. If you're finding value in this tactical breakdown, take a moment to hit that subscribe button so you never miss content like this. Chinese forces detected the American aircraft launches at 8:12 a.m. The Liaoning scrambled its J-15 fighter wing. 24 fighters launched over 18 minutes. But the Chinese fighters faced impossible odds. They had minimal airborne early warning support. Their radars were already being jammed by the Growlers, and they were outnumbered 2-1 by better-equipped American fighters. The air battle began at 8:31 a.m. 4 U.S. F/A-18Fs engaged the 1st Division of Chinese J-15s at 80 miles from the carrier group. The Americans fired 12 AIM-120D missiles. Beyond visual range engagement. Fire and forget. The AIM-120D is a 5th-generation weapon, active radar guidance, 100-mile range. The Chinese J-15s detected missile launch but had limited countermeasures. Their PL-12 air-to-air missiles had 60-mile range. They couldn't shoot back. 8 J-15s died in the first minute. AIM-120s hunted them down with ruthless efficiency. Chinese pilots ejected when possible. Most didn't have time. Aircraft exploded or tumbled into the sea. The survivors broke and ran. Some tried to return to the Liaoning. Others fled toward Chinese coastal air bases 400 miles west. The American fighters pursued. By 8:39 a.m., 16 J-15s were destroyed. The remaining 8 scattered. China's air defense collapsed in 8 minutes. The strike packages pressed their attack. At 8:44 a.m., the first wave of Super Hornets reached launch position 40 miles from the Chinese surface group. Each aircraft carried 2 Harpoon missiles, 48 missiles total. The pilots achieved target lock and fired in coordinated salvo. The Harpoons dropped from wing pylons and ignited. Sea-skimming crews toward their targets. The Chinese destroyers' defensive systems activated. Close-in weapon systems spun up. Surface-to-air missiles launched. But 48 incoming threats overwhelm any defense. The Nanchang, the destroyer that started this war, took 7 Harpoon hits. The first missile struck the forward superstructure. 500 pounds of explosive gutted the bridge. Admiral Chen died instantly. Every officer in the Combat Information Center killed. The following 6 missiles ripped through the destroyer's hull. Magazines detonated. Secondary explosions tore the ship apart. At 8:47 a.m., the Nanchang rolled over and sank. From first Harpoon impact to final sinking, 180 seconds, 420 crew members aboard, 11 survivors recovered. The 2 Type 052D escorts suffered similar fates. CNS Nanchang took 5 Harpoon impacts. The destroyer's ammunition magazines exploded. The ship broke in half and sank within 4 minutes. 280 crew, 8 survivors. CNS Nanchang absorbed 4 hits before capsizing. 280 crew, 15 survivors. 3 Chinese destroyers sunk in under 6 minutes. 980 sailors dead or missing. What would you have done in Admiral Chen's position? Would you have fired that first missile? Comment your strategic analysis below. The Liaoning remained. China's first aircraft carrier, symbol of naval power, worth $2.4 billion, home to 2,000 crew members. The carrier's battle group had evaporated. Its air wing was destroyed, but the carrier itself remained afloat and dangerous. At 8:51 a.m., the second wave of American aircraft attacked. The Liaoning's close-in defenses fired desperately. Type 1130 Gatling guns spewed 10,000 rounds per minute. HHQ-10 point defense missiles launched continuously. The carrier's crew fought bravely. They destroyed 6 incoming Harpoons, but 24 missiles targeted the carrier. 18 reached their target. The harpoon struck across the carrier's length. Flight deck, island superstructure, hull waterline. Each 500-pound warhead penetrated deep before detonating. The Liaoning didn't sink. Carriers are hard to kill. Massive hull. Subdivision into watertight compartments. Damage control teams fought fires and flooding. But the carrier was crippled. Flight deck cratered and burning. Island superstructure collapsed. Engineering spaces flooded. The Liaoning lost power at 8:54 a.m. Dead in the water. Listing 8 degrees. Still afloat, but finished as combat vessel. Casualty count: 340 dead, 600 wounded. The Tomahawk missiles arrived at 8:44 a.m. 12 missiles targeting Chinese support vessels. Destroyers were already sinking. The Tomahawks shifted to secondary targets. Chinese Type 903 replenishment ship took 3 hits. The vessel exploded and sank. 2 Type 054A frigates absorbed 4 missiles each. Both frigates sank within 15 minutes. Total Chinese losses: 3 destroyers, 1 carrier crippled, 3 support vessels sunk. 14 ships entered battle, 7 destroyed, 1 crippled beyond repair. 6 fled toward Chinese waters at maximum speed. American losses: 1 EP-3E reconnaissance aircraft damaged but recovered safely. The aircraft made emergency landing at Clark Air Base in the Philippines. All 18 crew members survived. 3 required medical treatment for minor wounds. The EP-3E was repairable. Total American casualties: 0 deaths, 3 wounded, 0 aircraft lost in combat. The engagement ended at 9:05 a.m. Total time from first Chinese missile to final American strike: 73 minutes. Chinese forces that fired first were obliterated. The Reagan and Lincoln strike groups maintained station for 6 hours. Combat air patrols circled the area. Chinese vessels that fled weren't pursued. The message was delivered. Further escalation was unnecessary. Beijing's response came at 11:30 a.m. Chinese Ministry of Foreign Affairs held emergency press conference, claimed American forces conducted unprovoked aggression against peaceful Chinese naval exercises, demanded international investigation, called for United Nations Security Council meeting. The international community's response was swift and unified. Japan, South Korea, Australia, and India issued statements supporting U.S. right to self-defense. NATO called Chinese actions reckless and illegal. Russia remained silent. The tactical lessons from this engagement will be studied for decades. First, firing first doesn't guarantee victory. China initiated hostilities. They achieved tactical surprise. They damaged 1 reconnaissance aircraft, but strategic surprise means nothing against overwhelming force. The U.S. responded with 2 carrier strike groups and 90 combat aircraft. China's Surface Action Group never had a chance. Second, air superiority determines naval battle outcomes. Chinese forces lost air cover in 8 minutes. Without fighter protection, surface vessels become targets. The Nanchang had sophisticated air defense systems. Didn't matter. When facing 48 incoming missiles simultaneously, defensive systems are overwhelmed. Carriers provide air cover. Without air cover, modern warships die quickly. Third, technology gaps compound in combat. American AIM-120D missiles outranged Chinese PL-12 by 40 miles. U.S. fighters killed Chinese aircraft before Chinese pilots could shoot back. Harpoon missiles overwhelmed Chinese point defenses. Tomahawks struck with precision. Every American system performed better than Chinese equivalent. Training and technology create insurmountable advantages. Your engagement directly shapes what content we cover next. Drop a comment with your thoughts and subscribe to support the channel. The financial cost tells its own story. China lost approximately $4.8 billion in destroyed vessels and aircraft, 3 destroyers at $920 million each, 3 support vessels at $400 million combined, 1 carrier requiring $1.2 billion in repairs, 24 J-15 fighters at $40 million each, personnel losses, 340 dead, 600 wounded, training costs for replacement personnel, $200 million minimum. Total Chinese losses exceed $6 billion. American expenditure, $180 million for EP-3E repairs, $85 million in munitions, Tomahawk missiles at $1.8 million each, Harpoons at $1.2 million each, AIM-120 missiles at $1.1 million each. Total cost, $265 million. Return on investment, 23-1. Modern warfare isn't about matching enemy ship for ship. It's about leveraging integrated capabilities to create overwhelming advantage at decisive point. The geopolitical aftershocks reverberated for months. China's Navy retreated to coastal waters. No more aggressive intercepts. No more dangerous maneuvers. Fleet exercises moved 600 miles further from international shipping lanes. The November 8th engagement demonstrated that China's naval modernization hadn't produced a force capable of challenging U.S. carrier strike groups. 2 decades of shipbuilding and billions in investment couldn't overcome training, doctrine, and technology gaps. Chinese naval recruitment collapsed. Enlistment dropped 60% in December 2024. Who volunteers to serve on ships that sink in minutes when facing American forces? Morale throughout the planned fleet plummeted. Officers resigned. Experienced sailors left service. China's Navy faced personnel crisis created by one disastrous engagement. Allied nations drew their own conclusions. Japan accelerated defense spending. South Korea purchased additional Aegis destroyers. Australia committed to nuclear submarine program. The message was clear. U.S. alliance provides security that Chinese aggression can't threaten. Every nation bordering the South China Sea reaffirmed security partnerships with America. Beijing's attempt to demonstrate strength achieved the opposite. They revealed weakness. This kind of detailed tactical breakdown takes serious time to research and produce. Subscribe to help us keep making this content. The Liaoning remained afloat, but never sailed again. Chinese Navy towed the crippled carrier to Dalian shipyard on November 15th. Repairs were estimated at 18 months and $1.2 billion. Those repairs never began. The carrier was too damaged, too expensive to fix, too politically embarrassing to return to service. The Liaoning was quietly decommissioned in March 2025. China's first carrier served 6 years, ended career as symbol of miscalculation and defeat. The EP-3E that survived the initial missile attack returned to service in February 2025. The aircraft received full repairs and modernization. It continues reconnaissance missions today. Same area, same mission profile. Chinese forces maintain safe distance. The lesson was learned. Attacking American reconnaissance aircraft guarantees destruction of the forces that attack. Admiral Chen Wei, who ordered the missile launch, went down with the Nanchang. Chinese state media called him a hero who died defending Chinese sovereignty. Military historians call him the admiral who triggered his fleet's annihilation through reckless aggression. His decision to fire on the EP-3E killed 340 Chinese sailors and destroyed a quarter of China's modern surface fleet. That's not heroism. That's catastrophic judgment. For the United States Navy, November the 8th validated decades of carrier-centric doctrine. 2 carrier strike groups responded to crisis and obliterated a numerically inferior but aggressive enemy force. Every system worked. Every tactic succeeded. Every crew performed flawlessly. This is what the U.S. Navy trains for. This is what a $180 billion annual budget produces. Capability to respond decisively to aggression anywhere on Earth. The engagement established precedent that governs naval operations today. Nations can operate forces in international waters without interference. Firing on aircraft in international airspace guarantees immediate violent response. Testing American resolve through force leads to destruction of the forces doing the testing. These aren't theoretical principles. They're lessons written in blood and wreckage at the bottom of the Philippine Sea. 2 final questions for you. Was America's response proportional to China's initial attack? And should the U.S. have pursued the fleeing Chinese vessels or shown restraint by letting them escape? Leave your strategic analysis in the comments. If you made it this far, you're the core of our community. Like this video. Subscribe to the channel. Hit that notification bell. Share it with anyone interested in modern naval warfare and geopolitics. This is Navy Force USA, where we break down the conflicts defining the 21st century. Stay informed, stay engaged, and remember, firing first doesn't guarantee victory. Superior training, overwhelming force, and technological dominance guarantee victory. China learned that lesson on November 8, 2024. They paid for it with 7 ships, 340 lives, and international humiliation. The price of aggression is steep. The cost of attacking America is steeper. That truth holds in the Philippine Sea, the South China Sea, and everywhere American forces operate. Fire first and lose everything. That's the lesson. That's the warning. That's the reality.